Now let's talk about present tense of verbs. At the end of this lesson, you are expected to recognize the three forms of verbs in the simple present tense, form verbs in the simple present tense, and lastly, use the different forms of the present tense in sentences correctly. Let's start. Simple present tense. It is a verb tense that states action in present times. The present tense has three forms. These are ordinary, emphatic, and progressive. Let's start with the ordinary form. The ordinary form is used when you want to state a fact or describe habits and routines. Now, what if we have a singular subject in our sentence? We should add S or ES to the base form of the verb. Let's say, for example, Vince plays basketball every day. Who plays basketball every day? So your answer would be Vince. So Vince here is the subject in the sentence. Again, he is the subject in the sentence because he is also the doer of the action plays. Now, since we are only talking about Vince in the sentence, then we consider that we only have a singular subject. Now, notice the verb that follows right after Vince. Since the rule states that we have to add S or ES to the base form of the verb, then for our verb, which is play, okay, that's the base form, then we should add S to it. Okay, so again, your verb here should have S. So that becomes plays. So now let's move on to our second sentence. So we have here, she joins the singing competition in Europe. So in our sentence here, we consider she as the subject in the sentence. She is the one who acts the action joins. And then since we are only talking about she in the sentence, then we consider she as a singular subject. And then do not forget the rule. You should add S to the base form of the verb. So here, we are adding S to the verb join. Okay, so that becomes joints. So again, if you have a singular subject, do not forget to add S to your verb. Now, what about if you have a plural subject in your sentence? So just use the base form of the verb. Let's say, for example, we say we go to the library every afternoon. So who go to the library every afternoon? So our subject here would then be we. Okay? And then when we are talking about we are not only speaking to a single person, but we are talking to many. So we consider we as a plural subject in the sentence. And then notice for our verb here, we only use go. So go here is considered to be on its base form. Okay? So once we're going to have a plural subject in the sentence, you should be able to use only the base form of the verb. Now let's move on to our second sentence under the plural subject. They celebrate her birthday. So who celebrate her birthday? So your answer is they. So they is our subject. And since we are not only talking about a single person, then we consider that we have here a plural subject. So take note that if you have a plural subject in your sentence, then your verb should be on its base form. So that's why we only have here celebrate. We do not add S or ES to our verb. So again, it should be on its base form. Let's move on to the second form of the present tense. We have the emphatic form. So it is used when you provide emphasis in questions and in negative and positive statements. Let us look at the given examples. Let's have sentence 1. My sister does like her new job. So in this sentence, we are using does. So take note of the verb that follows right after does. So it is actually on its base form. So why do we use does in our sentence? Simply because our subject is singular. Our subject here is sister. So for our sentence pattern, you have to remember that you should have here a singular subject followed by does, and then your verb should be on its base form. Let's move on to sentence 2, which is a negative statement. So it becomes a negative statement. It's because we have here not. Okay? And then what follows right after does? Take note that your verb here is still on its base form. So again, why do we use does in our sentence? It's also the same with sentence 1. This is because our subject is singular. We have Simon as our subject in the sentence. So again, take note for your sentence pattern here. You should have a singular subject followed by does. And then to make your statement negative, you could add not in your sentence. And then your verb should be on its base form. Now let's create a question under the emphatic form. So this would be our formula. We have does plus singular subject plus the base form of the verb. Let's have sample 1. Does he arrive to his office on time? So again, we just need to follow this pattern. You have does followed by your singular subject, which is he. And then your verb, which is arrive, should be on its base form. Let's move on. We have here, does Jasper love traveling? So still, we will follow this pattern. We have does followed by your singular subject, who is Jasper, and then your base form of the verb, which is love. Now, what about do? When do we use it? Let's look at this example. They do agree to continue the project. So here in this sentence, we are using do. What follows right after do is your verb, which is actually on its base form. But then why do we use do in our sentence? It's because we have here a plural subject. We are talking about they in the sentence. So for your sentence pattern here, we have your plural subject followed by do and then the base form of the verb. Let's move on to the second example. Cherry and Alex did not attend the seminar. So here, notice that we are still using do, and then what follows right after do is not. So not here makes our statement negative. And then what follows after not would then be your verb, which is actually on its base form. So why do we use do in our sentence? It's because we are talking about a plural subject who are Cherry and Alex. So again, remember, if you are going to make use of do, it should be your plural subject followed by do. If it's a positive statement, and then followed by the base form of the verb. If it's a negative statement, you should have plural subject followed by do then followed by not, and the base form of the verb. Now let's create a question using do. So this would be our pattern. We have do plus plural subject plus the base form of the verb. Let's have it here. Number 1, do they prepare food for the guest? So we can just follow this one. We have do plus they, which is our plural subject, and then followed by the verb, which is actually on its base form. What about for our sample 2? We have do Francis and Jillian make pancakes? So let's just follow. We have do plus our plural subject. We have Francis and Jillian. And then for our verb, we have make. So it should be on its base form. Let us move on to the third form of the present tense, which is the progressive form. So it is used when you describe present events or actions taking place at the time of speaking. So if you have this progressive form, you should be able to use this formula. So we have singular subject plus is plus the ing form of the verb. Let's say, for example, you have the base form of the verb, which is bike. So your ing form of this verb should be biking. You have bake, that becomes baking. You have listen, that becomes listening. So let us look at our sample sentence 1. Mr. Fred is waiting for his client patiently. So notice that in our sentence, we are using is, and then it is followed by the verb waiting. What is the base form of the word waiting? So the base form would then be wait. So for this verb, we add ing. Okay? So we add ing because we are using is in our sentence. Now, why do you think that we are using is in our sentence? That's right. It's because our subject here is singular. We have Mr. Fred. So we should be able to pair it with is. Let us go over with our sentence 2. Anna is participating in the event. So here we make use of is in our sentence, and then it is followed by the verb on its ing form. So still we add here ing. And then why do we use is in our sentence? Again, it's because our subject here is singular. We have Anna. Now let's move on to our second formula. We have plural subject plus are plus ing form of the verb. Let's have our sentence sample 1. We have Mark and Anthony are staying in the recording station. So why are we using are in our sentence? That's right. It's because we have a plural subject. We have Mark and Anthony. Now notice that right after your helping verb, which is are, what follows is we have staying. This would be your verb. And your verb here should be on its ing form. Okay, so we add ing to the verb stay. Let's move on to the second one. Let's have this one. We are planning to be there soon. So here we have a plural subject. So that's why we are using are in our sentence. And then again, take note of the given formula. Your verb here should have ing. Okay? So that becomes planning. Now that you know the 3 forms of the present tense, remember the simple present tense is used to express a habitual action. Let's say, for example, we have she studies her lessons every night. Timeless and universal truths. For example, the sun sets in the west. Another, actions taking place at the time of speaking. For example, the sun is shining. And then lastly, it is also for emphasis. For example, she does drink her milk every morning. So that would be all for our next video. Let's have some practices on this lesson.